Hello, and welcome back to Let's Get Lit. In today's episode, we'll be going over Chapter 12 of the Odyssey. Are you guys ready to see what happens next? Well, here we go. Odysseus and his men clear Oceanus and make it back into the open sea. They then reach the Aeaean Islands, made camp, and slept there until the next morning. The next morning, Odysseus and his men go to Circe's house and find Elpenor's body. They bury it properly and buried him with his oar. Circe then sees them and brings them food. She tells Odysseus that he is a brave man traveling down to Hades while still alive. Most people will think he has died twice. She then asks him to stay the night so she can talk to Odysseus. They agree and they feast. When everyone feasts and goes to sleep, Circe and Odysseus get together and talk. Odysseus tells her everything that's happened to him so far. Circe then tells Odysseus to listen to her closely. She's about to tell him everything that's going to happen to him and his crew. First, she tells him that they will pass an island that holds the Sirens. They will sing ever so sweetly, and that once men hear the song, they will drift the boats towards them. Be very wary of this, because the Sirens will murder them all. She tells Odysseus to plug all of the men's ears with wax. She says that if Odysseus wanted to hear the music, his men would have to tie him to the mast. They would also have to tie him really securely so he couldn't break free. If Odysseus begs them to go to the island, they must tie him up even harder and row even faster to get away. Next, there will be two different paths that will come up. One that contains rocks that smashes and destroys everything in its path. The only person to ever make it past them were the Argos. The next path is in between two rocks. One holds a monster with 6 heads, each with 3 rows of teeth. This monster is known as Scylla, and she is horrifying. She will eat everything in her way. No ship has gotten past her yet. The other rock holds a fig tree in full bloom, but under this way holds the whirlpool Charybdis. 3 times a day it sucks water down, and 3 times a day it blows it up. Circe warns Odysseus that he must cross it, and it has to be at a time when it's not sucking, or else everyone will be dead. They have to hug the side of the ship where Scylla will be at to cross the whirlpool safely. Odysseus tells Circe that it's impossible. There must be some other way, some way to kill Scylla. But Circe tells Odysseus that Scylla is immortal, and instead of killing her, Odysseus can call upon Creatis, Scylla's dam, and the dam will stop Scylla from attacking twice. Then, Circe tells him that after Scylla, he and his men will come to the Thrinacian Islands. There will be many herds of sheep and cattle. Odysseus and his men must leave the animals alone and not harm them. They are property of the sun god. If they leave them alone, they will travel safe. If not, all of the crew will die and Odysseus will be the only one left. Morning comes and Odysseus sets off with his men on the ship. While they are rowing, Odysseus tells them all about the Sirens and what they should do to prepare themselves. Just as he finished telling them about the Sirens, he could make out their island up ahead. So, he cut up wax and plugged all of his men's ears with them. They then tied him to the mast as Circe had instructed them to do. They then took their seats and began to row. Odysseus hears the Sirens singing and he tells them to row faster. They then get away and take the wax out of their ears and let Odysseus down off the mast. Next, Odysseus and his men hear the crashing of the waves on upcoming rocks. Odysseus tells his men to go to the oars and stick close to the island. They do and start to row. Odysseus does not tell his men about Scylla, but instead he puts on his armor. The closer they got, they could see the whirlpool. It scared them, and when Odysseus forgot about Scylla, she jumped down and snatched 6 of Odysseus' best men. They cried out to Odysseus, and he sees her eat them all up. Odysseus says that this was the most disturbing thing that he ever saw on his voyage. Odysseus and his men make it past the monster and the whirlpool. After a few hours of rowing, they came upon the island of the sun god. Odysseus tells his men what the oracle and Circe told him. Eurycleus tells Odysseus that he is crazy and that they should go to land and have supper. The men are all tired and need rest and food. The men agreed with Eurycleus, and Odysseus makes a compromise. He tells them that they can dock on the island, but they have to eat the food Circe gave them and not kill any of the animals on the island. The men agreed, and they went to the island. In the middle of the night, Zeus brought a horrible hurricane. Odysseus and his men had to dock the ship in a cave. Odysseus again warns them not to eat any of the cattle or other animals, or else they would all die. For an entire month, the weather would not let up. The men had eaten everything Circe had given them. They had to fish and catch birds just to survive. One day, while Odysseus went to the top of a mountain to pray for a way home off the island, the men killed and ate a few of the animals. While Odysseus was away, Eurycleus tells the men to kill some of the cattle for food. Eurycleus says that when they go back, they will build a temple to the sun god. They then kill the cattle and offer it up as sacrifices. When Odysseus gets back, he sees the men eating the cows. He cries out to Zeus how he has done a wicked thing. The sun god then goes up to Zeus to complain. Zeus tells him that as soon as Odysseus and his men get out at sea, he will destroy the boat. The men continue to eat on the cows for 6 days. On the 7th day, Zeus drew the winds back, and Odysseus and his crew set out to sail. When Odysseus and his men got a far way out, Zeus sends a storm cloud towards them. The wind picks up, and the helmsman dies. Zeus then sends a ton of lightning bolts towards the ship. All of the men were thrown from the ship except Odysseus. Odysseus holds on to what's left for dear life. He then floats back to the whirlpool and Scylla. He sees the fig tree and grabs a hold of it with everything he has. His raft then goes into the whirlpool and he holds on. The whirlpool then spits up his raft. Odysseus lets go and he makes it safely back to his raft. And then Odysseus starts to row with his hands. The gods keep Scylla away from him, and he was carried 9 days on the open sea. On the 10th, he wound up on Calypso's island. He then tells the king and queen that this is where his story ends. He's already told this portion of his story to him, and he hates repeating himself. This is the end of chapter 12. I hope you guys have enjoyed this chapter, and please remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. And as always, guys, stay lit.